someone made a point that mommy bloggers of disabled and neurodivergent children often talk about how hard it is to have such a kid, but we never hear the kid's point of view. And in fact, this time nicely was seeing a post by somebody who claims she's a mother of somebody with OCD. And she was telling somebody online who has OCD that they must be self diagnosed because they wouldn't be doing their tics if they'd been corrected properly. So they wouldn't grow up like that. You correct autistics and they don't act like that. One, that's not entirely untrue because look at women or people who AFAB, assigned female at birth. We're corrected so often that our autism, neurodivergency, etc., looks entirely different than men. But mama, that's not a good thing. It means we hide it a lot better. It's still fucking there. If you met my sister today, sister number 2, you wouldn't know she was diagnosed with OCD as a child. You wouldn't know as a child she screamed and cried for like 10 minutes straight because her stud earrings, they were just a little square, weren't facing right. And my grandma's desperately trying to help her. And I'm like, sister, too, it's a stud. How can it face wrong? It's not right. It's not right. She just scream and cry. She told me as an adult that she feared if she didn't do a certain set of knocks and steps next to a brick building, that like tap it 3 times, etc. Is that right? No. Hades, yes. From, my brain is couscous. Hades from Hercules would come and get her. And I know exactly what she means. I was never actually diagnosed with OCD, and it very well may have just been ADHD because they present very similarly in women. But I was always afraid if I didn't do XYZ, my future would be ruined. I'd die tomorrow, I'd get some horrible illness. Hell, maybe I didn't do it right, since I'm actually disabled now. And when I see those awful, like, oh, if you don't like this and forward this post, then you'll lose your true love for life. And it's like, hear me alone. I'm like, don't do that. It's so stupid. I mean, those things don't go away. They just get quieter when you're corrected. And like the person who actually made the post said, they were driven to a diagnosis after they almost killed themselves because they couldn't handle it anymore. Back in the day, they used to put people like that in sanitariums. Somebody found a notebook by someone who lived there. It was just pages of a sequence of numbers. They just did this all day. They couldn't do anything else. I mean, so yeah, those are real illnesses, especially when you don't have medicine. And I'll tell you, you spend 5 minutes with my sisters, you go neurodivergent, but not one of them's diagnosed unless you count that OCD, and she's never been treated for OCD as an adult. My nephew often goes nonverbal. He was assigned female at birth. And you say, nephew, would you like pasta for dinner? Like, that's all he does. And my grandma gets so enraged about it. And I'm like, that's just how he is. You just gotta accept it. At least I mean, you know, in our house, because I live with my grandmother, I got my grandparents to accept his new name and gender. I said, you don't have to understand it. Just love, if you love him, try. And when it came to I said, just accept it, love him, try. And, you know, several times when he's been here, he'll come up to this very room. I call it the cat room for my boys. They used to hang out up here, and sometimes they still do, but not as much. And he'll just be, and you know what he tells his mother? He says he loves these trips. He loves being here. He really adores my grandmother, and he hates his real grandmother, my mother, who's was a daughter-in-law to my grandmother. My mother misgenders him. My mother gets pissed when he... And my mother's just generally awful to him. Zionist, fascist Christian type. I mean, she's just awful. And the first time they came here, he wasn't trans. He wasn't out as trans yet. And I suggested we play board games because I have a lot of them and my grandma really enjoys that. And so we did, and we had so much fun. And my sister told me later, she said, oh God, don't ever let that be said around mother, because mother will be pissed. She's because she always wants to play games with him, but they're really boring, very rule based, and he hates that. When they played here, we were making jokes. I was saying obscene shit. He had the time of his life, and when he was just last here, uh, my sister brought her boyfriend, and I was just so tired. Oh God, I was so fatigued because I had to do a lot of driving before they came. It had nothing to do with them. So I bought out, but I could still hear him laughing playing the game. He enjoyed it so much. I mean, if you actually love the person, shut the fuck up. And I really hate those speak autism moms, the puzzle sign moms. They see autism as something that needs to be cured. For the record, there is no cure for autism right now. So, I mean, that's just how your child is. If you didn't accept your child could be born with a medical condition, maybe you shouldn't be a parent. Now, I'm not counting where abortion's outlawed, you can't get an abortion, etc. These are parents who had that option, parents who had birth control and everything, and they still wanted and had a kid, but they wanted an obedient kid. That just sickens me. So, if you're an adult and you feel like your thoughts are overwhelming, especially if you're assigned female at birth, look into the signs of ADHD and autism in women, even if you don't identify as a woman anymore. I think it'll be a big relief because it was for me.